might say, is just something that evolved on its own in a vacuum. You might say that, because when I say a vacuum, because nothing really under white supremacy when it comes to people, there's no real vacuum there. Every vacuum, so-called vacuum, has already been filled by the white supremacists. But it appears that how that evolved into what people gave that popular term, Black Wall Street, and mostly they were talking about little stores and grocery stores and banks and movie theaters, etc., on the black side of town. Now, what made it different from the black side of town in a lot of other places? Well, it's because there was a lot of territory in Oklahoma. Oklahoma had just recently been what is called Indian territory. They had driven a lot of Indians out of Georgia, Alabama, Florida, across what they call the Trail of Tears, because so many people died being moved out of there, being forced from one place to another into what they call, it wasn't called at that time Indian territory until the Indians got there, and because it was considered to be a worthless place. So they said, drive all these Indians out of this prime land down here in Florida and Alabama and Georgia and send them west out there. Now, these are the white supremacists that made these decisions. And so they sent the Indians out there, and so the Indians were out there until somebody said, hey, I just heard there's some gold out there where you sent them Indians. And so then here came the white supremacists again, flocking into there. And so some black people running away from the Deep South, I understand, I've been told, they heard about this Indian territory being, not really under any kind of flag or anything. People just were kind of running around doing whatever they wanted to do because they hadn't established any real government there. So a lot of black people fleeing the South and hearing horror stories about the North ain't quite what it's been made to look like either. So they said, well, we'll go west. So a number of black people, not a great number, went west into what they call wild territory, wide open territory, just free for the taking. I mean, just go and stake off some land and to start doing some farming. So I understand that's how it got started. And so what happened with the black people and the white people who went there was so much territory, the white people basically didn't even pay any attention to the black people because they were just interested in grabbing some land, and start digging for diamonds or whatever was there, and mostly oil and et cetera, because they heard that's, up under that ground there was some oil, and that was coming into being as a popular thing. So the black people who went there, they just kind of settled there and started doing what they do best, what they've been taught to do, and that's farming. But the land was very poor, but they made the best of it because they had to do something. And so a little town grew up, you might say, or a side of town, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that became, the center of it became something called Greenwood and Archer, which was actually the crossing of two streets. And so along that town, the white supremacists, not wanting to have anything to do with black people at all, and they were so busy, grabbing the Indians' land and whatnot, that black people kind of prospered on their own on that side of town over a period of time. And the white supremacists said, well, we don't want to even sell anything to them. We don't want any contact with them at all. Let them have their little banks and whatnot and their little movie theaters. As long as they don't bother us, we don't want to sit next to them. In fact, we don't even want to see them. So that was kind of different from what you call the Deep South, where the plantation owners owned the company store. And they had all kind of connections with black people when it came to things that would benefit them. But apparently in Oklahoma at that time, they didn't want any contact with the black people at all. That gave the black people a little leeway in doing things like establishing a bank. It was several towns, Boley, Oklahoma, where black people had their own bank. Now, when you got your own bank, that's different from anywhere in the North or the South. Where did black people have banks? All over over the all over the North, all over the South, even today. No, banking is very important. This is where money is generated. This is where money is accumulated and loaned out to farmers and whatnot, and they can get loans, and you begin to have a stable settlement when you have banks. So the white supremacists said, let them have their own banks as long as they're not, I don't care what they do over there. I don't care. I don't want to be mixing with them any kind of way. I don't even want to look at them.